Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're looking at the Blight tree, and this is another terrain piece from the Crippled God Foundry's The Rotting One campaign. This is all new this month. We're just taking a look at some of this stuff ourselves, and these are big terrain parts, and yes, they are pre-supported in the packs. If you get these files yourself and you are trying to print them, don't go, oh my god, no, I have to do this myself. No, they have pre-supported options in their files. I like doing this myself because their pre-supported files don't, in a lot of cases, aren't hollowed. They're solid chunks. But this is a big tree, in my opinion, and I don't really want to print it as a solid piece. First of all, I just feel like it's going to be too heavy, too big, unnecessary use of resin. So hollowing it a little bit, I think, is a great idea on pieces like this. I already demonstrated that on the thorns. And I've demonstrated it before on larger figurines, how hollowing those works out. So again, on terrain parts, I think it's even more necessary in some cases because of how big a terrain part can actually be. And also the weird orientation sometimes you have to put them at just creates peel forces in different directions. And if this is a big object with a lot of cross-section, you're talking about a lot of peel force, and that's unnecessary. So I like to hollow them. I think it just makes it print a lot better with a lot less material. That's my personal preference on that one. So no, don't freak out. You can get these and they are pre-supported, I promise. We actually use the pre-supports for 99% of the files that these guys have, so I don't actually have a problem with their pre-supporting. We've actually talked about in another one of our videos as well. You should check that one out. And once you get the model hollowed, we can put it back on the plate and just make sure it's in a good orientation and a good spot. This is a big object and it's going to create pull in different directions at different points of the print. So having adequate supporting in the beginning and in the middle and the upper areas is going to be really key, I think, in making this survive. Now, I did take a look at how they supported their original file, and it gave me some ideas on where I need to kind of go with this. Seeing as it's hollow, I think I can probably be a little bit more lenient with it because it's going to be a little lighter, but I also know that this is going to create some pull, so I need to make sure that it's going to be adequately protected against pancaking and stuff. We definitely want this thing to print fully, and we want it to print right. Now this is a tall object as well, so detecting the islands is going to take a little bit of time, but always a necessary thing. Okay, and once we have our islands, we can start adding supports. Now again, this is going to be another condition of contact points need to be solid. And on this particular case, I decided to go with the line raft, not the shape raft. Only because I feel like this is a smaller object than the thorn. And that was a really large piece. So again, it's kind of pick or choose. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to do the same thing every single time. The different rafts do have different reliability levels, but for the most part, having a raft will be more beneficial than simply not. Although the tips of the bases of the actual supports do make a contact base with the build plate, so there is a sort of raft that gets created along with the model, even if you don't put one there. So that is something to be aware of. Again, with large pieces like this that are either tall or have a lot of areas that are going to be parallel to the plate, and sometimes it's impossible to avoid it, at any orientation, a part of this tree is more than likely going to come across an area that's going to be parallel to the build plate. The only way to really support that properly is just to add as much support in the areas that are going to need it, and hope that it doesn't sag too much in between the inner supports, and you still get a decent shape out of it. Now, with something like a tree, it's not really a smooth surface. I don't think it's going to matter too much what this looks like underneath, but if this was a smoother object, I think you would definitely want to make sure that you could turn it in such a way that you won't have too many areas that are going to be parallel to the build plate. Now, like I said, there are some instances where this is much harder to do, but it just might mean that you need to turn the object completely on its side or on a tip or something like that to adequately suit it to a point where you're gonna get the least amount of area that's going to be parallel to the build plate. And that could take a lot of testing to figure out where exactly that's going to be. I mean, or you can try to let the software figure that out too, because there are features in different slicers that will allow it to auto-orientate. Sometimes it gives you some good suggestions that way. Other times I often look at it and think, well, I would never orient things myself that way, but okay, sure. Whatever you say. I remember there have been many occasions where it will literally turn a figurine on its face or completely up, straight, flat on the plate with its face down. Most of the detail just literally facing the build. And this is how the software is like, yeah, you should do it like this. Somehow I don't think that's an adequate recommendation. Now again, I'm going to stress this, and I know you guys are probably sick of hearing it, because here's a broken record. Contact points. Just make sure that they're good, solid, and you have a good starting point for the print. Something of this size definitely needs to make sure it has good anchoring at the bottom. So, got to make sure that where these pieces are starting, you have a good tip that's going to grab hold of that, and then not a lot of layers above it before it's going to get a couple more supports underneath it, so it doesn't pull itself free. Because remember, some of these parts are going to be hollow, so some of them are going to have areas inside of them that are going to capture a little bit of suction before they get to an area where they can free some of that suction into the rest of the model. And so that's something to be really conscious of when you're doing a hollowing feature like this. You might wind up with a pocket or two that is going to be a vacuum for maybe a couple of layers where you're going to have to get past that zone, so to speak, to get it past that state. Now, this isn't always the case, and most of the time with big pieces like this where you can just hollow out the middle, you wind up with pretty decently hollowed material and not a lot of pockets on the inside where you're going to wind up with this problem. But it can happen on smaller figurines for sure, and smaller pieces as well. It is something to look for sure. Alright, and once you get all your supporting done, obviously we want to export this out and get it on the printer. Now I've already printed this particular object and this print came out great. Now again, they do have a pre-supported version of this file and you can still use it if you choose. We have not printed their pre-supported version of the file. Again, I just prefer to hollow objects that are this large. So for me, this is how we're handling this particular print. It looks good, the textures look great, and we don't have any problems with it. So if you ever want to take something that's already been, supported or something like that, and you want to take a stab at hollowing, terrain parts are definitely something I would definitely recommend because of the fact that they can be large and take up a lot of resin use. So something to chew on for sure. Anyway, folks, thanks so much for watching again as usual. We really appreciate it. Drop us a like, sub, comment, and ring the bell if you want to know about any of the other episodes that we post. And we'll be back again soon. Hope to see you all soon. Thanks for watching.